Sorry, I'm wobbling about. Welcome everyone to Dorset Council's Licensing Subcommittee. I'm Councillor Kate Weller. I represent White Regis and Rodwell. The first thing we need to do is to elect a chair for the meeting. Do I have a proposer? Sorry.
I propose Councillor Kate Weller.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. I'd like to do now some introductions. If I could start on my right, then left, work round.
I'm Councillor Les Fry, representing Dorchester West.
Good afternoon, I'm Councillor Emma Parker and I represent Puddletown and Lower Winterbourne.
I'm Laura Autry. I'm from Legal Services to provide legal advice to the subcommittee should they need it.
John Miles, Democratic Service.
Catherine Miller, Senior Licensing Officer and Report Author.
Joanna Jesson, Licensing Officer.
I'm Darren Narain. I'm the Environmental Health Team Leader.
And Louise Joyner, Environmental Health Officer.
Alexia Kaziani, I am an Operations Manager for the Lounges Group.
Kieran Butcher, Regional Operations Manager for Lounges.
Robert Botkai, Solicitor representing Lounges today.
Robert Rodway, Local Resident.
Andrew Kelly, Local Resident.
Valerie Kelly, Local Resident.
Thank you very much. Do we have any apologies? No. Thank you. Declarations of interest and declarations of interest?
I have no declarations.
I have none.
Thank you. No urgent items? Thank you. So the application that we're discussing today is for a new premises licence for Piazza Lounge, 4 to 5 The Square in Wimborne. And we'll go first to Catherine, please, to outline the application.
Chair, can I just speak?
Yeah.
Just to let you know, we have carried out a site visit to the premises on the outside and had a look there.
Yes.
Yes.
We all have.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This hearing is to consider a new premises licence application for Piazza, 4 to 5 The Square, Wimborne. The applicant has applied for late night refreshment, both indoors and outdoors, Monday to Sunday, 2300 to 0300 hours, and the supply of alcohol on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to midnight. The premises may also remain open for the sale of alcohol and late night refreshment from the terminal hour for these activities on New Year's Eve through to the start time on New Year's Day. The licence also covers 2 external seating areas for the consumption of alcohol. One is at the front of the premises in the square, and one is at the rear of the premises. Environmental Health have made a representation in relation to potential noise nuisance, and their comments can be found at Appendix 2. As a result of these comments, the applicant, via their solicitor, made the following amendments. The alcohol terminal hour to 2300 hours, removal of late night refreshment, opening hours amended to 23:30, outside tables and chairs to be rendered unusable by 2200 hours. A new condition was added of no customer access out to West Borough. These amendments and responses by each Environmental Health can be found at Appendix 3, plus also the supplemental comments that were made by Environmental Health regarding the sitting out areas to the applicant's solicitor. There were 3 representations against the application received from interested parties, and these can be found at Appendix 4. The applicant's solicitor wrote to the interested parties with the amendments as previously mentioned, and these can be found at Appendix 5. I'd like to remind members that the options available to them today are to grant a licence subject to such conditions as the authority considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and the mandatory conditions, to exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, to refuse to specify a person in a licence as a designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application. Thank you.
So do you have any questions for the officer?
I have no questions. Thank you, Chair.
No questions at this time.
Do you have any questions for the licensing officer? No, thank you. Right. Do you have any questions for the licensing officer? Thank you. This is now your opportunity to speak.
And good morning. So my name is Robert Botkai. I'm a solicitor from Winkle Sherwood, and I represent Loungers. If you're not aware, Loungers has 172 similar cafe bars around the country. We're particularly excited at the prospect of bringing this building back to life, listed building back to life in the square in Wimborne. I was lucky enough to stay overnight in Wimborne last night, but felt that there was an attempt to sabotage my presentation today, as I was woken every 15 minutes by what sounded like a gong. And when I went to Wimborne Minster this morning, I discovered that there is something called a quarterjack that sounds every 15 minutes, and it was just outside my bedroom. So I'm not trying to make any allegations against anybody here today, but yes, if I doze off at some point, then we can blame the quarterjack. Anyway, lovely to be here. I've sent you, and I know it's been circulated, some information about Loungers. We've got hard copies here if anybody would like them. So we are an informal cafe bar. Really importantly, we are not a pub. We don't have vertical drinking. We're not the cheapest pint in town. We are very much about family dining. There's a fantastic emphasis on vegan and gluten-free food, as I think you'll have seen from the menu. We have an award-winning chocolate torte. We engage with the local communities. We donate 50 pence per burger. And 20 pence to local charities, and we have an annual Lounge Aid fundraising initiative taking place to raise money for local causes. There are no representations from the police to this application. We're not in a community of impact area, so there is no the burden is on those objecting to, as opposed to the applicant. But we had regard to the representations that were received. We've cut back the hours so that the alcohol hours terminate at 11 p.m. Now. We've also removed late night refreshment. So late night refreshment is for the sale of hot food or drink after 11 o'clock. We won't be doing that. In terms of regulated entertainment, we don't do any. We have background music only. So there's no need for us to have regulated entertainment on the licence. I believe that the main point of contention in this application is about the use of the outside area. And again, I think I'm right in suggesting that it's the area at the rear rather than the area at the front. So if anybody feels strongly about the area at the front, I think I'd need to address you again. So I will focus on the back. We've agreed a condition that the area will not be used after 10 o'clock, so the tables and chairs will be rendered unusable. It is critical to this operation that we have the use of this outside area. It is an important feature and part of the characteristic of the experience of coming to this particular Loungers And you'll be aware of the importance of outside dining that's been emphasised over the last 2-3 years. People want to be able to dine outside, and it is critical to this particular venture. A number of questions have been asked by Louise and her colleague on environmental health. We've tried to answer those. I've got more information now, having visited last night as well, because I had the same questions. One of the questions, how would we stop people exiting onto West Borough, which is a concern from residents? Well, the answer is very simple. It's going to be sealed off. So that the car park, what is it at the moment, the car park, and it's really good that you visited as well. There will be either a fence or a wall, so there will simply be no, apart from emergency escape, obviously, customers will not be able to come into the restaurant from West Borough, and they won't be able to leave the restaurant via West Borough as well. So that's hopefully answering that particular question. There would be, music will not disturb local residents because it's background music only. No amplified music. Any deliveries to the restaurant will be during the daytime, and the same for emptying bottles and bins. We don't do that at night. So in terms of the representations that we've got, there appears to be no objection to use as a cafe bar, and I'm pleased to see that there's no objection to the applicant itself to lounges. But the description is given repeatedly in representations that they don't want another beer garden. This isn't going to be a beer garden. This is very much a family dining experience where you can order from an app when you're sitting at the table, and the food is brought, food and drink is brought to you at a table. The evidence that's in the papers is very much a concern about the man in the wall, the Wetherspoon pub, and the experience that residents have from the man in the wall. They may be a bit suspicious of me now. I've been in and out of the man in the wall about 4 or 5 times in the last 24 hours, going through to the back to try and understand the concern. They do have I think it's a 1 a.m. licence on a Friday and Saturday night. It is a Wetherspoon's pub. Great things about Wetherspoon's pubs, but they do attract a lot of people, partly because they tend to be the cheapest pint in town. And our pricing will be nothing like Wetherspoon pricing. We don't get people coming into us simply to drink pints of beer with possibly the sorts of issues that can arise from a crowded pub. We're not a crowded pub. We're very much a restaurant cafe. So the description of beer garden simply doesn't chime with our experience of our restaurants elsewhere. Of course, there's no vertical drinking at our premises. So if there are problems, and I don't know whether they have been evidenced, if there are problems with the man in the wall, that's a separate issue to the consideration for today's application. So it's simply not correct to say that we are similar to a Wetherspoon's pub. We're not. There's concern then about staff cleaning up and going home, that they'll drive out onto West Borough at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's not going to be the case. We close at 11 anyway, and our staff won't exit onto West Borough. They'll because it'll be sealed off, they'll exit from the front. The Wetherspoon's pub is actually licensed till 1:30 on so I think it's alcohol till 1 o'clock and then opening till 1:30. And they have a slightly peculiar condition on their license that no alcohol may be consumed in the outside area after 10:30, which means that people can drink tonic water or alcohol-free beers in their garden after 10:30. Now, I spoke to them last night, and it was all closed up at 20 to 10, actually. There was nobody in the outside area at Wetherspoon's at 20 to 10 last night. I'm sure in better weather, in finer weather, there would be. But our condition is very much that we will make sure that that area is unusable after 10 o'clock. So we won't have people who can drink soft drinks after 10 o'clock, whereas at the Wetherspoons you can. The management of the external area, we've got lots of experience elsewhere, and Kieran and Lexi are very happy to talk to you about their experiences at other lounges where we are very proximate to residents. So we have a number of such outside areas. We consider it an extension of the indoors. So with sit-down service, we have lots of logging and checks. We polish the candles and the cutlery regularly. The table's cleaned and sanitized regularly. There's lots of steps that we're taking to make sure that the outside area is well managed, and we'll be sensitive to the fact that there are some residents who overlook the area, and we know that we have to be considerate to their peace and quiet. I think to really summarise this, where you as a committee will be today is what is reasonable and what is proportionate. And that's what your policy says, and that's what the law would expect you to look at. So we believe that 10 o'clock is reasonable, is proportionate. It's not enough, and 9 p.m. would kill it. 9 o'clock for the outside area. People want to be able to finish their meal. They want to be able to remain, and 9 o'clock wouldn't do it. So we have come down to 10 o'clock for the outside area, and we believe that that is reasonable, it's proportionate, and we're very happy to remain in contact with any of the neighbours to ensure that they're not being disturbed by us, and we can have regular meetings with them if they make themselves known to us. So we've got a serious operating schedule that we've put in with the application. We are within your licensing policy. I keep saying, but we are a food-led, family-friendly restaurant bar. We are not a vertical drinking pub open till late at night selling the cheapest booze in town. There is another condition that you may feel would assist, and I think I've taken this from your policy actually, so forgive me, but it says that the premises license holder shall take appropriate measures to ensure that patrons using any outside area do so in a quiet and orderly fashion. So we think that would be a good condition to have on the license as a reminder to all concerned. But I think the most important thing will be for us to keep in touch with any neighbours on a regular basis, and we very much hope to be a positive addition to the square and to Wimborne. Thank you. Sorry. Oops.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Parker?
Not at the minute.
Yes.
I see, I've got it. How many premises do you have in your chain? How many?
It's 172 lounges.
It is on.
18 and 18 cosy clubs, which is a different concept. 30, just gone 30 cosy clubs, but this is very much a lounges. This is more the family dining. So 172 lounges.
Can you explain to me what you mean by rendering unusable?
So the back area is because the entrance and exit is through the building. We'll close the doors. So we have that in a number of businesses. One being in Southbourne, in Bournemouth, where we close the doors. Out the front, we would stack furniture. So our team would clear everybody out, bring everybody inside, and then we'd stack up the furniture, making it unusable.
So how would you practically do that? Are you going to say to people, you've got 50 minutes, then clear off and move inside?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, we have plenty of staff on in the evening to be able to do that. On occasions, we might politely bring people's drinks inside for them if we're having any trouble.
What sort of furniture do you use? I'm thinking that, and I'm some chairs and tables, when moved around the ground, if they're on tarmac, patios, whatever, can be quite noisy.
So we use, it's a mixture. So we have metal furniture, and we also have plastic furniture. So we tend to use the plastic furniture out the front of businesses where we do drag, and we use metal in the reverse where it would be more stationary.
At the rear, there probably isn't the need to bring it inside. So at the front, you're right, it has to be stacked and brought in, but actually at the rear, that would be just exclusive to lounges, so there's no need to bring it inside.
So I guess at the front, you'd be possibly stacking it and covering it or something to make it unusable rather than bring it in, because you'd have to...
I thought you were referring to the back area, which is where they're more likely to be kept outside. But the front there'd be a partition, a clear planters or some area at the front, and then the furniture would need to be brought inside, yeah.
Tell us about the situations you've got in Southbourne and other areas where you've got close confines of conflicts with the residential areas and the open seating, eating, drinking areas, please.
Yeah, so we have Westbourne and Southbourne with 2 sites in this area that we have those. So they're both 10 o'clock, and they're both, so Southbourne has an upstairs terrace, which is, again, locked up, closed off. We have Westbourne, which is the same. Westbourne perhaps is more relevant because that's enclosed and gated off to stop access. And then in Southbourne, we have seating out the front, which is where the staff will move people back inside. We stack up and then bring inside when everybody's gone home. So both areas are 10 o'clock, both sides are 10 o'clock.
What's the situation? How long? There's a number of questions in relation to that. How long have they been open? Did you have objectors to those? And what's the situation now, ongoing?
Ludo, 13 years.
Yeah, so Southbourne's been 13 years, Westbourne's been 10 years. We haven't had any issues in my tenure, which is going on 8 years now, looking after those businesses. So that, yeah, we don't have any issue. Actually, we build our businesses around regular guests, and a lot of them know the time, so they start to come in of their own accord. It makes it a lot easier for us to be able to handle.
What you're saying is you've trained your customers.
I wonder whether I can ask you how many covers will you have at the rear, in the outside area at the rear, and how many covers are you anticipating at the front?
We don't exactly know until we get onto the site, but we're aiming for 30 at the back. That'll be like 30 to 40, and at the front it'll be 20 to 30. But it depends how we can fit the furniture in the space we've got.
So that would be a maximum that you would be planning there. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask you, you did mention that bottles and so on would be collected during the day. Could you also undertake that bottles are not put into the bins in the night time either, because at 11:30 that can be quite disturbing?
I have, from Ringwood, we have a site in Ringwood, and then I have all the Dorset ones. And to be honest, with the majority, we do no bottle emptying. So they have bottle bins in the restaurants that are used all day. Then they don't empty them until past 9 a.m. the following day. So we would normally do that. And then our bin collections are organised from head office, and we can do those for stipulated times as well. We can do later at the weekends, of course, as well, if that's absolutely fine.
Thank you. I think that Councillor Fry has asked the other questions. You're okay, Councillor Bugger?
Thank you. Councillor Weller mentioned on covers, but do you know what the actual maximum capacity is for the premises?
Again, we don't sort of design our furniture until we get there. But my belief it will be a maximum of, I think, 130. Yes, yeah. But that's our maximum. We tend to go a bit lower than that. Like it'll be around 100 to 120, I would have thought.
And you said about orders being done on an app. Is that for a booking to take place as well? Do you book, or can you just do walk-ins?
We can do both. We're very casual, so you can go up and order at the bar, or you can order on the app on your table. You can also book online now. You can book by the phone if you want to have a bigger group, I guess. And we can do pre-orders as well. It's very easy, but we don't expect it and we don't need it from bigger parties.
And with regards, I mean, you've mentioned the fact that obviously there's going to be no vertical drinking, but just the fact that obviously, is it going to be table service only, either, on the app, and are people expected to come in? Are they able to come in, sit down and just have drinks, or do they need to sit down and eat with a meal? And when I say a meal, I'm not on about a full 3-course meal, a sandwich or whatever. I'm just trying to get the aspect of, can you go in there physically and just, have a few drinks?
You can. Sorry, if you don't mind me answering. You can go in for a drink. We don't force our customers to have a meal, but it's our experience because of the ambience, partly because of the pricing. It's not generally the place of choice for somebody who wants to go in for a number of drinks. It's simply not the right ambience. So whilst we don't have a restaurant condition on our licenses, so I understand the question, we don't want to be in a position where we say to the let's say to the customer, you're having a piece of cake, you can't have a glass of wine. So it is very much a more modern food-led operation. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. That's all the questions I have, thank you.
I'm turning now to our licensing team. Do you have any questions for the applicants?
No, Chair, I don't, thank you.
I will... Is there a... You're on. It is on, yes. Environmental protection, did you have any questions for the applicants? Okay, thank you. I will come to you later, but do you have any questions for the applicants at this time?
Yes, I do. I'm Andrew Kelly, and we live in second floor flat at 8 The Square, which directly overlooks the external seating area proposed at the front of the building. Now, I've noted the comments from Environmental Health regarding the seating area at the rear, and they virtually apply to the seating area at the front. We live within 10 to 15 metres of that proposed seating area. People living at number 6 The Square, the residential units there, are in fact much closer. It is in our direct line of sight. The area is surrounded by tall buildings and noise will resonate around. So my question is, if the applicants would agree to 6 p.m. for the external seating area, we would withdraw our objection.
Front? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I think I have a number of comments, but I think that's for later. Yep.
Environmental protection. Would you like to make your comments now?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I haven't got a great deal of comments to make because I haven't got anything really to add to my representation, which is on page 43 to 51 of the document pack. As pointed out, we had some conversation with the applicants, and a number of our concerns have been alleviated due to the changes in their operating schedule. The main sticking point does remain, to us, the use of the external area at the rear of the premises. In the supplementary to the pack, there was the last correspondence on the 20th of September, where we said our representation needs to remain, and our representation is there, as it says, because we're concerned about noise from customers in the external seating area at the rear of the premises. This could cause what we feel is a public nuisance to the occupants of the neighbouring residential premises, which are, as you've been and had a look, 10 to 15 metres away from that area. I'm not sure if it's the appropriate time to answer, but I think Mr. Kelly said it's similar at the front, but our view is that the front of the premises is the town square. There's traffic and there's a constant movement of people, whereas the back of the premises is enclosed to a larger degree and very quiet. There's not a constant movement of traffic and people in that area at all. So the character of the area between the front and the rear is very different. And that's it. Thank you.
Very much. Louise, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I've got nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, councillors, for environmental protection?
With regards to, you stated that obviously a number of your concerns have been met with this one. Is it only the rear outside seating area that you have a concern with? And what sort of timing would you be looking at that you would like to see it, sort of ceased?
Just to confirm, yeah, it is only the outside seating area that we're concerned about now. At the back, sorry, the external, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. In the last correspondence back to the applicant, I didn't want to commit. I did suggest maybe 6 p.m. Might be considered okay for at the rear because people come home from work and they didn't want to be exposed maybe. But then I also thought, but then at the weekends, that could be a problem, even 6 p.m. because people are at home much more during the daytime. So quite honestly, I'm not really sure of an appropriate time that external area can be used. I think it will cause a significant impact to the neighbouring residents at all times because it is just quiet now, and with up to 30 to 40 people sat out there, I accept no amplified music out there, I think it will still cause a significant impact at that distance. In my last correspondence on the 20th, I said 6 p.m, but previous to that, there wasn't really any times, apart from they offered 10 p.m. There was no other further conversation about times.
Sorry, with the chair's permission, I am going to go to the applicant now on that one. Is your 10 p.m. for the rear seating area something that is sort of set in stone with yourselves? Any particular, reason why it needs for the rear of the we're talking? I'm specifically just concentrating on the rear of it now, not necessarily the front, because I understand like the front it is in the square. There is buses coming in and out all the time. There's traffic coming through, so it is just that rear. It is in a courtyard with like quite a built-up area around it. I appreciate the good months. There's it's probably going to be quite lucrative for you. In the winter, probably not so much. But I was just going to think, what would is there any any thoughts that you would reduce the timings on that area?
I don't think. Well, I know that we can't reduce to 6 p.m. and I did very deliberately say at the outset that our customers will want to eat, and if customers are to eat, I don't think we can. Start packing them up at 5:30 p.m. And telling them to stop eating or to move inside. So this area is really critical to this venture moving forwards and bringing this building back into life. And I'm not sure that it's right to convey this as a silent area at this area. I mean, just a couple of doors down is the Man in the Wall, which has got the outside courtyard where there is no restriction on the time that people can be outside drinking. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right to say that, but at the same time, to sort of convey I'm not suggesting that you are, but for the room to convey the impression that it's completely silent at the back at the moment. It is a town centre. That there is the Wetherspoons. There's a lot of outside dining. It's wonderful. You walk around Wimbledon. There's outside dining. The cafe immediately next door to us. It's all set up this morning and ready for outside dining. So there can be a tendency to have an understandable concern about what may happen in the future, we get that, but our experience is that the nature of our operation is not going to disturb the residents at the rear. And I'm grateful to the Environmental Health Officer for the comments about the front, which is a town square. But we'd ask to be given the opportunity, and the risk is ours to a very. This is a major. We were looking at the that is one very expensive fit out that we've got there to convert what doesn't look a very attractive place at the moment. We're going to convert it into a very attractive place, and the whole build, development, the cost of fit out of this restaurant. Now, if we mess up and we are disturbing residents in a way that they weren't disturbed before, that's how the licensing works. It is a permissive piece of, this is really from my clothing, it is a permissive piece of legislation. It allows license holders to do things. Having said that, with the sting in the tail, is that if we do cause a nuisance and your Environmental Health Office would learn of it, and then there is the power of review. And if they weren't disturbed before and they are disturbed in future, then we can have that, we can have the license revoked, it can be suspended, or you could put a condition on saying 6 p.m. on the outside if we are. So the risk, I fully appreciate where the residents are coming from, but there is a risk to us as well, that we put this project together, and if we then don't do what we say we're going to do, or we behave in such a way that is a nuisance to the neighbours, we run the risk of losing that licence.
Okay, thank you for that. I asked the question because you don't know if you don't ask. Thank you very much. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Just if I can come back to you again, you did say right at the start that those timings were critical to the business plan, and I understand that, and I wouldn't expect you to do anything other than do your business plan very thoroughly. I'm just wondering, I was quite surprised at the number of covers that you're expecting to have in the back, and I'm sure that you've based that on previous operations. Is that number critical as well as the timing of it? And I know that's asking you how long a piece of string is.
It's also it's a capacity. So it doesn't mean that there's going to be that number of people. Now, I've only acted for lounges for about 3 years, but I've now been to a number of the restaurants, and there's certainly one in the town centre in Watford, which is in amongst the pubs on the high street in Watford, and I've been there at 9:45, 9:30, 10:15. There was nobody left. There was about only a handful of people left in the restaurant, so it might well have had a capacity of 130, but we are not a late night venue, so I wouldn't want the committee to think that we're always going to have 130 people in premises. That is a capacity. It doesn't mean that they are that it's full the whole time. It'd be nice if it was, but it doesn't necessarily apply.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Environmental protection. Did you have any further questions following that discussion?
Thank you. Yeah, maybe I wrote it down wrong, but you mentioned that at the rear of the premises, maybe 30 to 40 covers, and at the front of the premises, 30. But the way I understand the plan, the area at the front of the premises is a lot larger than the area at the rear of the premises. No, okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, no, thank you. And actually the sizings are on the plan, and they're, yeah, thank you.
Do you have any questions for environmental protection at this point? Licensing, do you have any questions for the applicant again now, or environmental health at all? Thank you. Do you have any questions for environmental protection? No? In that case, this is your opportunity to put your statements to the committee. Mr. Rodway?
I may sort of skit around a bit because I'm just going to respond to a few comments. I'm not actually pre-prepared anything. The man-in-the-wall beer garden, it's a planning condition that limits it to 10:30. It's not a licensing issue. Conditions to be quiet, a condition saying that, customers should be quiet. It's a great idea, but I don't think many customers actually read planning conditions or licensing conditions. I also appreciate that the nature of the business is very different to the man in the wall. I'm not associating it with the man in the wall, but it is a large company and it's a large premises, so there's a similarity in that extent. A lot of the comments I made in my objection letter become irrelevant when you reduce your hour, because originally you were looking at midnight. Midnight, you're a pub. I don't care what anyone says. You're not a family dining experience. That's certainly not my family background. But I appreciate the hour coming down. A lot of issues have been resolved. I wasn't going to ask a question about the number of covers at the back, because it implies that there's a sort of a number that's acceptable. But 40 to 50 plus people inside and bifold doors open, you've just got an awful lot of people making an awful lot of noise, and that noise has to go somewhere. And bifold doors at the back, that noise just comes straight to us. And this goes back to the environmental health officer's concerns about the built environment at the rear. Regarding general vicinity, this is going to be quite detailed, so I apologise in advance. We have a spare room at the back. That gets the noise from Wetherspoons. We have 2 windows on the front, which are living room and bedroom. They cannot be open, and we accept that. That's partly traffic as much as it is general noise from patrons. We have casement windows on the side. Those are the windows that we have open. Those are the windows that basically overlook this garden. That is generally quiet. It is a quiet area. Simply, there are buildings in the way. It's just how it works. We are effectively surrounded. That's fine, but we have to have some of our windows open. Your comment about the risk is yours. Yes, I understand exactly where you're coming from. But I am going to be a little bit blunt. It's just a business. This is a risk to my home. There's quite a difference in that. The issue of critical use, I can understand. I've heard that said before at many meetings. You've got a couple of rooms upstairs that overlook the square down the high street to the Minster, which you've got noted as just mothballed. There is extra space. I accept it's not outside, but there is still extra space within the building that's not being used. That has an issue on capacity. You also have outside dining at the front. So there is outside dining. So how can it be that critical? It seems to me the numbers, therefore, is critical, rather than the concept of outside dining. No amplified music, fair enough. It's actually not the music issue I'm concerned about. It's simply the number of people in the building and outside. And obviously the comment about not coming out through Westborough in the evening is fine. I suspect that would have been applied as a planning issue anyway. I think that is all my comments. I apologise that went all around the place, but I was trying to address the individual points. Very final point. I've got no problem at all with lounges taken on this building or it being converted to a cafe. It's a great idea for the building, and it's the inevitability of the use. So this is not an issue with the applicants. It is simply the rear garden. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. Kelly.
I would sort of reiterate an awful lot of what Robert has said, so I will leave that sort of to one side. The only real comment I would like to make is I don't agree with the comment by Environmental Health that the nature of the front of the building is different to the rear. I accept that that is an enclosed private space, whereas the area to the forecourt is public space. But the whole nature of Wimborne on a Friday and Saturday night changes at about 7 p.m. And it is full of people wandering from pub to pub. And if you have seated area with people dining, there will be interchange between people passing and the customers. The level of noise will inevitably rise. And our windows directly overlook that area and definitely come within the scope of 10 to 15 metres. And as I say, the people who live directly above number 6 are probably within 5 to 10 metres. So there is a real impact upon people who are living directly overlooking this outside space. Daytime use, cafe use, is not a problem. It's part of the hustle and bustle of daytime Wimborne. But the whole nature of the town, particularly at the weekends, changes. I rest there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity now to sum up. So, questions of the residents? Do you have any questions for the residents?
I don't know.
Do you have questions for the residents? Statement, okay.
Mr. Rodway, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, I don't know how much you understand of the licensing thing, the licensing regulations. And it's one of the powers in the Acts that actually I do believe in. And I know that the applicants will be very much aware of that. Should this license be granted, should there be problems, then it is very easy to call the license in and to review it and do that. And in effect, should there be problems, it is possible to have the license and have the off that place within 90 days, given all the periods and everything. It's the one bit of legislation that actually does work, and the applicant might want to just confirm that what I'm saying there. And the onus is on the applicant and the premises to run it responsibly, sensibly, within the conditions, should and if it be granted. And this is just to reassure you that there is a process that works. Certainly works well here in Dorset.
I was just going to ask you if you had any questions for Mr. and Mrs. Kelly or Mr. Rodway. Any questions? No? No? Thank you. In that case, we come to a summing up. I'll start with the... Start with you, if there's any summing up you want to make, Mr. Rodway, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, of your statements.
Just very briefly, I think great idea for the building. For me, the only issue is the outside space, and I'm aware that we are likely, well, I would say it is inevitable that we will be disturbed at some point, and therefore we would pursue that matter further. It is for us, it's just it is the closest by some distance of the properties that surround us. It is inevitable there's going to be nuisance, and this is the time to convey that now, that it's, I don't want to get to a point where it's reviews, but I can't see any other approach to the issues that are likely to be caused. That's really it. I don't think there's anything else. Thank you.
I would really agree just with what's just been said. The only other comment, perhaps, which I forgot to make earlier, was, to the best of my knowledge, the top floor of the building in question has got a residential use. So you have got a residential permission directly above the building, which will also be affected by any outside noise. Thank you.
Very much. Summing up of the applicant now. Summing up now from environmental protection, if you have anything further.
Actually, there's just a couple of things I'd possibly just adding a little bit of weight to Mr. Kelly and Mr. Rodway's comments there. And like Mr. Rodway, my comments are a little bit haphazard, but I'd just like to point out, we did ask for a noise assessment in our first correspondence back to the applicants on the 19th of August. And we're talking a little bit here about the difference between the front of the premises and the rear of the premises. And I was concerned because I think that noise assessment would have shown what the background level is at the rear of the premises, maybe then in comparison to the background level at the front of the premises. And I still think the noise at the rear of the premises caused by people could cause an issue. Mr. Rodway mentioned, and this was my thought as well, I suppose I didn't highlight it, that many people would be doing their family dining outside, but at the front. I think, quite honestly, I miscalculated the size of the front and the rear of the premises that was in the application, and I assumed that there would be more seating out of the front, but it looks there's more seating at the back than I envisaged or calculated. So that concerns me further, to be fair. Mr. Kelly mentioned about Friday night and how the town changes, and I'd just like to agree with those comments purely because I've only been at Dorset Council for a few months, but previous to that I was at East Dorset Council in that particular area for 8 years or so. And there is a definite change in character of the area on Friday nights, and I regularly, back in my environment health officers out on the feet days, was in town on Friday nights looking at exactly these issues caused by people coming out of pubs and going to the 1 or 2 premises that were still open. I think Mr. Rodway might remember, because I think we worked together on some of those issues back in that day. Yeah. We didn't work. Sorry, we didn't work together. It's just Mr. Rodway had put in some complaints about noise from the man on the wall, and then some other complainants along the street had put in some complaints about noise from other premises along there, and there was regular people walking along there. There's just conversations between environmental health and Mr. Rodway and some other complainants about noise from the premises, not from any particular premises, just around town, and premises that are open late.
I think there was a sort of implication that there'd been a working role, perhaps in an outside organisation together, but it doesn't sound anything like that. So from my point of view, I'm happy with that response.
Thank you, Lara.
So, Mr. Naraman's environmental health officer, when Wetherspoons opened, we had problems with their beer garden. So he was the environmental health officer I contacted. That was it. Thank you.
I think we now have that clarified. Thank you, and you're happy with that now? You are. Okay, I think it was maybe an ambiguous wording there, but we've got that sorted out. Licensing team, do you need to say anything? Applicants.
Thank you. One of the rare occasions where I get the last word, I think. I'm a little bit confused about the man on the wall, because the representations make it quite clear that we're being compared with the man on the wall, and then we hear that we're not being compared with the man on the wall. It's got nothing to do with the man on the wall. We are being compared with the man on the wall. The man on the wall is a pub. The man on the wall has got a license till 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's got vertical drinking, and it's probably got the cheapest beer in town. So it's a very, very different type of venue to the one that we've got. But I perfectly understand that somebody who's living next to the man on the wall or similar venue is concerned about another venue opening. And then you get the picture that's being created of with respect from your environmental health officer about late night, people going from place to place and looking for the late night place to go and have a drink. We're nothing to do with that. We are a family dining restaurant bar. People are not going to be coming into us from the Man of the Wall or any other pubs to see if they can get a late night drink at our lounges. That is simply not how a lounges operates. We will have, I dare say, I was asking Lexi earlier on about what sort of customers. She said, well, a bit boring, a bit like you. So it's sort of people like me who go to lounges. As I took it the right way, but that's really what we're about. And so we're not contributing to the late night economy. People are not going. Oh, let's go to lounges for a quick drink. It is very much about having the food range that you have on offer at a lounges. You have a difficult decision. I appreciate the difficult decision. We're being sort of torn between the front and the back, and we are a town centre. Are we a town centre at the back? Of course we are. We're still in a town square, whether at the front or the back of our premises. And you don't want your town square, the town centre, to stand still or to go backwards. You don't want empty premises. So we welcome the comments from Mr. Rodway that it's a great use for this important building in the town square. Mr. Rodway said that customers don't read conditions. Well, the conditions are not there actually for the customers to read, and we don't expect the customers to read the conditions on the licence. They're there for lounges to operate in accordance with the conditions. So they are really important, the conditions. I didn't know about the planning restriction on the Wetherspoons, the rear of the premises, but that might explain why it was closed at 10:15. The licence condition on their licence is ambiguous. Ours wouldn't be. We simply have to stop using the outside area by 10 o'clock. And we believe that that's reasonable and proportionate. You don't have a crystal ball. As a licensing committee, you can't decide there will be no noise disturbance whatsoever from lounges to this. But what you do need to decide is what is reasonable and proportionate, taking into account the needs of residents, but also of businesses and businesses' customers, the people of the town. How many people have actually objected to this application? The notices have been up there for 28 days. They're still up today, actually, telling people about the midnight application so that everybody in Wimborne would have had an opportunity to consider this application, whether they live 5 metres away, 10 metres away, or 30 metres away. And you've had very limited opposition to this, important opposition, but very limited in terms of the numbers. We don't have the whole town up against in arms against a midnight application. And we have reduced to 11 p.m. Now, we reduced that well in advance. One strategy for licensing lawyers is to keep it at 12 o'clock and then just give something back at the hearing. We didn't. We've shown our full hand in advance of the hearing in the hope that actually a hearing wouldn't be necessary today. We did think that we would be able to reach an agreement by offering the 10 o'clock for the outside space. We were very hopeful that would be the case, and we're sorry that it's not. To come back to the licence review, and your colleague talked about the 90 days. Well, yes, it can be done in 90 days. Personally, I see a licence review as a weapon of last resort. And I would like to think that Mr. Rodway, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, would be in touch with us and say, look, we've got a problem. There is a nuisance being caused. What can you do about it? And we'd work together. And if we don't achieve a satisfactory outcome, then there are officers who can get involved as well. So I wouldn't want to create the impression that you just bang in a review application the day after the first problem. We can undertake, and we can condition this to have a meeting quarterly in the first 12 months from opening. No point having it from today because I don't know when don't know how long it's going to take us to open. But in the first 12 months from trade, we're very happy to sit down with Mr. Rodway, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly on a quarterly basis. How's it going? Is there anything that we could be doing differently? And put that condition can go on the license. The reason I say 12 months is that I've seen conditions which sort of last indefinitely, and what tends to happen is that people forget about them and on both sides, and you have this fairly redundant condition. We don't expect that there will be problems. We believe that the fear is as a consequence of the issues that have been put in the papers about their experience with other venues, in particular the pub, and we don't believe that we will cause any of those problems. We know that we have to be very sensitive to the people who overlook the square and the rear of the premises and the front, and we will undertake to do that. So I say it's an important decision because it's about whether this project can go ahead or not. 6 p.m. Simply wouldn't work for people who are dining. Outside dining is so much more important than it was 3 years ago. That we generally, as a people, now like to, where possible, dine outside, and that is an emphasis at most of the lounges around the country. So I'd ask you to give this project your blessing, and but with the clear warning that we face repercussions if the residents' fears do materialise. But we're confident that they won't. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, but thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. A couple of points I just want to raise there, thank you. Looking at the application, just one for clarification, and I know it's been raised by the objectors. Is it a restaurant or is it a cafe bar? For me, a cafe is tea and cakes. Is that correct description?
Well, here we go. It's all see, we can have this discussion outside the room. The old Licensing Act, I've been around long enough to work in the old Licensing Act. My biggest criticism of the old Licensing Act, it said, are you a restaurant or are you a pub or are you a nightclub? And unfortunately, that's how English establishments developed. You were either a pub that closed at 11 o'clock, a nightclub that closed at 2 o'clock, or a restaurant. Very rigid definitions. And we've moved on from those, and these premises are much more fluid and relaxed and informal than the old restaurant licenses. So the 1964 Act had the restaurant condition, where drink could only be served ancillary to a table meal, and the lounges is very much more of a relaxed cafe. I don't know what to go, cafe, bar, restaurant. Go on, what is it? What are you?
We have knitting clubs on a Tuesday morning. Knitting clubs on a Tuesday morning, and we call them buggy brigades of mummy groups. We also have chess clubs. We have Dungeons and Dragons meetings for locals. We're a bit of everything. We're not quite a restaurant. We're not quite a bar. We're cafe, restaurant, in between. So yeah, I'm really sorry. It's very vague, but it is. We do a little bit of everything.
No, that's very helpful. It's just really for clarification for those here and those who may be watching online. The other thing, I like the idea of should this licence be granted, and again, consideration has to go for that, but community meetings, community contact, would you be willing to ensure that a phone number and an email address are available at all times, and perhaps set up, should the licence be granted, regular meetings, whatever the periodic for those were, with local residents?
What I would ask, the reason I suggested quarterly meetings for the first 12 months is that a license theoretically lasts forever. And so I've seen licenses where we're desperately trying to get meeting because the license says you will meet with the residents quarterly. 5 years down the line, it becomes a bit of a redundant condition. So it's just the wording of the conditions. I think it's best if it's limited to the first 12 months of the license. If matters are not resolved by then, we know we've got problems anyway. So.
Thank you, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fry. I was going to speak about the telephone numbers because, you know, my feeling on these outside, I mean, if you've got a family of six sitting on one table and a family of six sitting on another table, they're going to talk to each other in a relatively low voice. But if the whole of the back garden is booked for somebody's 50th birthday party and all of them are related to each other or friends with each other, they're going to be talking a lot more loudly. And that's when that telephone number for residents might be very, very useful. So we would want them to have a designated phone number that they can get in touch with you and say, actually, do you know, this is a little bit over the top.
Side area.
But my name and contact email address, and I hopefully will be with the loungers for a long time. We'll have a general manager nominated to that site, and
No, I think everybody said everything I would have said, so no, nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Legal representative, have we covered everything that we need to cover? Do we have any ambiguities there that we need to iron out?
No, Chairman, I think you've covered everything.
It's really important that everyone present has had the opportunity to say everything that they want to say. What we as a licensing committee are always very anxious that you don't go away with the thought that I wish I'd said this or that. So anxious to give you another opportunity now. If there is something that has suddenly come up that you would like to add, please do so now. Mr. Rodway?
I can understand the desire for community relations between us, and loungers are going to be my new neighbours, so I don't want that to start off on the wrong foot, which is hence this comment at this stage. But within the context, it is inevitable there will be nuisance. Environmental health have raised concerns. When that nuisance occurs, I will, of course, be courteous to loungers, but I'm just going to go in hard. I'm sorry. It will be straight to licence reviews for me, or alternatively, legal action. I'm warning, it's not wrong term. I'm trying to advise now, this will lead to problems. You cannot have a garden with this number of people next to my home and tell me it's not going to be a nuisance. Environmental health have reinforced that point. And that's one of the reasons why these meetings are so important. If this is critical, it's only going to be more of a conflicted argument later when it is critical to your business that has opened and invested in this building. And that's my point now. It's sorry if that sounds as blunt as it did. My apologies.
Can I speak to? Our windows face west. It was a hot summer last year. It was over 30 degrees. We have to have our windows open. It will be very, very noisy for us. In fact, I imagine it's going to be unbearable. And we will probably have to move. We've been there 11 years. I imagine that's the result of this. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Did you want to make any comment on that, please?
Yes. Look, there's some emotive comments there, and I understand that, but the test really is for you to consider what is reasonable and proportionate in the town centre, in the town square. I won't use some of the language that Mr. Rodway has used. I don't think that's necessarily appropriate before the committee. I'd hope that we can work together, but one does have to be careful what one wishes for. And I think having a loungers type operation at this venue, even with the outside space, will be a lot better for resident, a lot better for the local community in terms of noise and disturbance than perhaps some other use that this building could be put to. I'll leave it at that, and again ask you for the opportunity for us to demonstrate that we can work with the residents and the local community to the benefit of the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Neither of you have any more to say? Right. Well, I think everyone's had their say now. Please, as I said just now, if you feel that you haven't, please say so now. This is your opportunity. Otherwise, I'm now going to conclude the public part of the meeting. The subcommittee will consider its decision in private, with the Democratic Services Officer in attendance, and the legal advisor will be called upon to give us any guidance that we may need. We will make a decision as soon as we can, and that will be that decision will be sent to you. Is it 21 days?
It's sent out via
yeah,
email. It goes out via email, and that will be in
5 working days. But the length of time in which you have residents have to appeal, do residents have it?
Yeah, so
21 days.
Yeah.
21 days.
There is a right to appeal to Weymouth Magistrates Court, and that's within 21 days of receiving the written full decision notice.
Okay. And that will come out to you as soon as we're able to. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed for attending.